Hi, mamas. So, that feeling you get when you're up at 2 a.m., you're depleted, exhausted, haven't even showered yet, and you look over and your husband or partner is just sleeping peacefully without a care in the world, and you start seething with rage and resentment. I know you're nodding because I've been there. We've all been there. Hundreds of moms I've worked with have been there. Yeah, we're getting into resentment today. Stewing in resentment is not fun, right? It's kind of a dark place to be. It definitely gets us feeling alone, pretty bitter. I would say unheard and validated and disconnected from our partners. It's a lonely place. After years of working with moms and couples, I know how to help you get out of that stuck place into one of more clarity, directing your energy back into connection with yourself and with your partner to get your needs met like you deserve. So today I'm going to cover what's going on when we're sitting with that seething resentment and what's the most productive way to pull out of it, right? Why it's dangerous actually to ignore it, to let it fester, to avoid conversations, but it's much more helpful for you to connect with yourself and your partner. Direct that energy in a healthy way. I'm not talking about hostile or contentious, but in a healthy way to get on the same team with your spouse or partner so you get more support and connection, which is going to help you, it's going to help your relationship, and it's going to help the whole tone of the household, the whole climate of the household. Okay? So let's start by just getting clear on what's going on when we're sitting with resentment like that. Usually it comes from exhaustion and unmet needs. So often people say like, well, it's resentment, it's not anger. No, there is anger. When we don't get needs met, yeah, we're angry and that's okay. The feeling of anger is healthy and okay. And it's pointing us towards something important. It's letting us know something doesn't feel right or something doesn't feel fair. And I'm not okay with this. Often there's a lot of, unfortunately, there's just so much judgment. Yeah, I just see so much judgment. Moms come in my office and they're like, I should just be grateful. I feel guilty that I'm so angry. We have this beautiful baby. We're in this wonderful phase of life. And I'm just sitting here with all this resentment and bitterness. And well, yes, of course you are, because you're exhausted. You barely have had any sleep and you're overwhelmed and you need more help. And when you see that your partner isn't taking on as much responsibility or is able to enjoy a level of peace and rest and lightness that you don't get to enjoy, that's going to bring up some anger. You guys are going through a huge adjustment, whether it's your first child or your fifth child. It's every time is going to be an adjustment that you need to orient to. And as you're adjusting to that, there's going to be, roadblocks and there's going to be bumps and there's going to be times where it's like something isn't working. You're going to have to work together to get to a better place. So it's normal. It's good actually to connect with it. And it emerges when, you're in the midst of recovery, the responsibility is high, the emotional labor is high. And again, when that gets uneven during a period of real vulnerability, this is a fragile time. I have a 2-year-old. I'm still in the trenches and I have, not only am I working with moms all the time in the stage, but I have this lived experience pretty recently too of when you are exhausted, when you're tired, you need a lifeline. You need the lifelines from your partner to see everything you're doing, to appreciate what you're doing, to initiate help, to jump at responsibility, to be curious about how they can make it easier for us, right? So when this resentment comes up, it's protective. It's not something dangerous. It's not something wrong. You're not an angry person. It's a protective response to stress. It also doesn't mean that there's something wrong in your couple relationship. Again, these are normal struggles that couples go through in this stage. So there's nothing inherently wrong. It's just something that needs to be dealt with and discussed. Look, when you are recovering from birth or just recovering hormonally or just adapting to parenthood, there are just so many demands. If you're sleep deprived, if other things, other factors and other stressors are going on other than just parenting and adapting to a new child, there's going to be a lot of emotions. There's going to be more reactivity. It's hard to do so much invisible labor that doesn't get seen. Remembering dates, planning doctor's appointments, scheduling everything, washing pump parts, whatever it is. dealing with, the demands of a toddler all day, right? Like anything under the sun in this early stage of parenthood, it can be very depleting. There's also, you're adapting also to changing your role, changing your identity. There can be grief around this. Return to work around this time can be really hard, or missing work can be hard, whatever it is. And so there's just so much you're going through. And then as you are going through so much, if you start to feel like you're carrying too much of the load, a disproportionate amount of the load, yeah, that's going to lead to resentment. Of course it would. And that's healthy. It means you're saying, hey, something doesn't feel right to me. That's okay. What I hear often from moms is, I love my partner. I want us to be connected, but I feel alone. You shouldn't be feeling alone. This is a time for family connection, right? Welcoming a baby into the world. Sometimes it catches moms off guard. Hey, like we usually have had a good balance of sharing responsibility. I didn't expect it to feel like this. I thought we would, more naturally, I think, share all the responsibilities. And even just confusion of, wait, how did this happen? Why am I holding so much? Why am I doing so much and depleted? And I look at my partner and he has a lot more reserves than I have. And that just doesn't feel okay to me. If you want to start a podcast or grow your existing one, Juliana Barbati and her team have you covered. They handle the entire process from building episode funnels to production and marketing, so you can focus on reaching your audience. Visit julianabarbati.com and let them know I sent you. How moms cope with this, how couples cope, that will cause more problems down the line is that they avoid discussions around their resentment with their spouses or partners. There's a lot of reasons why it gets avoided, and it's understandable, and I'm certainly not trying to be dismissive. There's always very good reasons why something is uncomfortable, why it's a challenge for us to broach certain topics, and I'll get into that in a minute, but I really want to start by saying I'm going to acknowledge and validate. I see you. I see why it's hard, but I'm also going to be really direct and say I'm not going to tiptoe around this. The more discussions like this get put off, the worse the resentment will get. It's not going to disappear. It's going to boil up, and it will come out sideways. And not just to your partner, but it'll come out sideways in the way you show up at home with your kids and the way that you relate to yourself and with other people too. So it's going to bleed out in ways that's not fair to you. It's not going to be great in your relationship. Okay. So, and if you need support to have these kind of conversations, get that support. It's really important. So some of the reasons why it's hard to have these conversations is the biggest one I see is a fear of conflict, right? If I bring this up, my partner's going to get defensive. They're going to feel misunderstood. They're going to lash out. They're going to see me as just being nagging or just ungrateful or getting too reactive, too emotional. And unfortunately, big narrative is I should just be grateful, right? This comes up a lot. It really makes me sad that moms have this thought so often, right? I should just be grateful. I don't have the right to have my feelings, my anger, my needs. Well, your baby's not the only one that has needs. You have needs. Your relationship has needs. And when you address your needs and when your relationship becomes more connected and can work through things in a healthy way, that's going to be the best thing for your child and your children. Okay, keep that in mind. And there are like cultural messages too, right? That motherhood should just be natural and we just sacrifice and that's just how it is. And, partners should just notice. And if they're not going to notice, I guess that's just how it's going to be, right? And there's like a dismissiveness and there can be a self-neglect. I mean, I see that as self-neglect, right? It's like saying this is just the way it is and I'm going to adapt and I'm not going to have needs. And if you notice thoughts like that going through your mind, one thing I often ask is like, would you want your daughter to treat herself that way? And if not, why is it okay for you to treat yourself that way or to speak to yourself that way? That can often be a way to snap out and see what those thoughts do to someone, to a mom, right? Look, a big one that I totally get, and I remember this viscerally, is that even if you have faith that the conversation might go well or that it could be productive, you're just depleted. I mean, who has the energy to say, hey, let's have this talk and let's start negotiating? And because it does get touchy and it can get sensitive and it can take a lot of time and energy and it's exhausting. And sometimes even just explaining the load and all the things you're doing is exhausting in itself. And so I really do remember moments like that where I knew we needed to have talks. We needed to have talks with my husband just as we were navigating different challenges after my son came into the world. And I remember being like, oh, I can't talk about it tonight. Can we talk about it tomorrow? Because it was just so depleting. So very natural for that to happen. And it's okay to wait until there is time where you do have a little capacity where you've gotten some rest. The conversation will go better that way. Okay, so I want to get into like a little bit more about why avoiding these discussions harms relationships. There are a few things I didn't mention. So when you stop asking, if you don't bring things up ever, or if you bring things up and then let things go. So now I'm going to give some concrete, actionable advice about how to approach these kind of conversations when you're dealing with this resentment in a healthy way with your partner. So first of all, the approach in the conversation, it's okay to feel anger, but if you're going to go in a hostile way, in like a tit for tat, hey, I do this, you don't do that, like in a tit for tat adversarial way, it's not going to be productive. It's not going to go well for you. It's not going to help you. It's not going to help your partner be in a space to receive, what they should be listening to and considering. And so I think outlining, hey, like, helping your partner understand and even just setting the tone for both of you, which is, what is our goal here? Our goal together, like in this conversation, is to understand each other, to get relief, to find ways to navigate all these responsibilities in a way that just feels better to both of us as a couple. Okay. So it's showing like I care about myself and I care about you and I care about us as a couple. And the point of this is for us to feel better together. It's not an attack mode. So again, I think it's perfectly reasonable to, hold people accountable. So it's not that I mean to like avoid that in any way, but it is helpful to focus just how things are functioning in your relationship dynamic instead of, again, like a personal attack. And try to explain like what the cost is to you. For example, like I've been talking about, I think, more like practical help so far, but even let's say you're feeling resentful because your spouse isn't putting enough boundaries with in-laws. That's another good example. So what's the cost to you, right? Like explain to your spouse, hey, when your mom criticizes how I'm feeding the baby, like every time we see them and we visit with them, it's demoralizing. It's getting me down. I really would like to be protected from comments like this. I'm not comfortable to say something myself. And when you don't say anything, your silence really hurts me. It feels like you're not in my corner and it leaves me vulnerable to keep hearing this criticism. I just can't hear right now. Like I'm already having a hard enough time. I'm already struggling with feeding enough. I really need protection in that way. I feel really alone when this happens. And I know it's hard for you. And I'm not pretending like that's an easy conversation to have. And I have compassion for that. And this is really getting to a point where I have a ton of anxiety when we go to visit your mom because it just touches too raw of a nerve. Okay. So that's an example of framing as, explaining what the cost is. So the kind of phrasing that's helpful is like we, me, instead of you don't do this, you always do this, absolutes, things like that. And focusing more on the impact. What is the impact to you? What is the impact to the relationship? What is the impact of how you can show up for the family when you're not getting certain needs met, whether that's emotional or practical? And usually it's a mix of the two, right? So I would say it's also going to get you guys kind of in more of a collaborative state to share lived experience, like how you are experiencing things, how you notice experiencing things together, what your hopes would be for how you can experience things together. And explain, like, I feel constantly on, my mind can't rest. It's wearing me down. I'm noticing getting resentful because I'm not getting like half as much sleep as you're getting. I really, really need to get more rest. And start naming what goes invisible, right? Like there's so much that goes invisible, whether it's making doctor's appointments or lists or scheduling and just tracking everything that needs to be done in your mind. Name it, say it out loud. Sometimes when you just name it all, it's like, oh, your partner might be like, wow, that is a lot. And just to be able to see it, how can we spread this out and explain what's going on for you inside. Like, explain what that feeling is like at 2 a.m. when you haven't showered, you're depleted, and they're fast asleep, and it's just like, oh man, I need to get rest like that. Something has to change. The other thing is, be careful about not asking for like task kind of help, but actual structural change. So not just, hey, can you take on this task this week, but actually, can you handle scheduling doctor's appointments from now on for the kids? And again, it doesn't matter what the task is. It's just if your partner can take on a task wholly, that means that you don't need to do reminders. You don't need to be putting things in the schedule, and it will help that invisible load for you too if actually your partner can just take over something fully. It's important to know that like one conversation is not going to nip all this in the bud. This is the start of many conversations, and hopefully it gets more familiar and more comfortable over time. This is something you guys are going to need to check in about. Don't expect mind reading, and revisit, because things evolve and responsibilities are going to evolve. Different things are going to come up, so you're going to have to adapt. And I think obviously like they're going to hear, oh, postpartum resentment, like, oh, that's a bummer. It's crappy. Yeah, it's a bummer to sit with, but all of this kind of conflict is an opportunity for more connection in a relationship, for more growth as a family. So as you're adjusting to sharing responsibilities or asking for needs to be getting met more often, that's like a skill. It's a muscle that you need to exercise over time. So it's an opportunity to start these conversations and get more familiar with them, because guess what? Like, you're going to be way past the postpartum stage, and you're still going to have to be having these kind of conversations that are tough. The situation will change. The development of your child and your family will change, but these kind of conversations you're going to need to have. And so the earlier you start having them, the more comfortable you start getting with them, and making sure that it's a climate of, hey, we're on the same side. We're not against each other. It's teamwork. The easier that'll be long term. So this is not just a short term survival thing. This is actually like a long term opportunity for your family. And yeah, so I just recommend checking in pretty regularly and sharing, like, this is not about being perfect. This is not about mind reading, but it's about showing each other that we care, that we can listen when something doesn't feel right, and that we work together to figure it out so that we can feel closer. We can enjoy each other. We can be more regulated in ourselves and feel like more peace in ourselves, which means you're going to be able to show up for your child, your children in a different way. Okay. So please remember, if you're sitting with resentment, I promise you, it's so common. It's totally natural. And it is an opportunity for actually more closeness. And it's important information. It's telling you something that's important. Okay. Deal with it earlier. The earlier, the better. Please do not wait and let it fester and fester over time. Okay. The goal isn't to like never have anger, never have resentment. The goal is, acknowledge this is normal. Bumps in the road are going to happen. Anger is going to happen. Disappointment is going to happen. It's more about how we deal with it together. Okay. So know that you have every right to take yourself seriously, your feelings seriously, and to let your partner in. Give them an opportunity and your relationship an opportunity to address things like this. Okay. I hope this is helpful. Subscribe to my podcast. If you think you and your partner may need more help with this kind of navigating, I'm actually going to be releasing some coaching packages soon where I use my expertise to get to the root of what is most helpful for you as a couple so that you can find the most relief, the most connection in this special time of life. So subscribe and stay tuned. I'm here for you and your family. Goodbye.